Welcome back to the channel, Brad Takes Flight, where we're going to take our sky-high dreams and make them a reality. If you're new to the channel, my name is Brad, and I am at a accelerated flight training school in Smithfield, North Carolina, called Blue Line Aviation. I've already completed my private pilot instrument and commercial license, and I'm working on my CFI. I've gotten through all the training requirements that I need in order to get to my check ride, and today is going to be a warm-up flight, getting ready for that all-important check ride on Monday. So it is Saturday at 3:45. I have a flight at 5 o'clock, wanting to get some time in to get all my cards and weight and balance and all that kind of stuff done and just get myself prepped and ready to go for my flight at 5 and be ready to go in case we can get up a little bit early on a Saturday. I know that our instructor would really enjoy getting out of here early if at all possible. It's been about 3 days since my last flight. Be good to get up there and get in my maneuvers, especially my landings. I'm a little concerned about just side loading the plane a little bit. Still trying to get just that linear trajectory of energy down the runway. Just adding in a little left rudder instead of a little right rudder, and just really honing in that picture a little bit better of the sight line now being in the right seat versus the left seat. I think today will be a big help for that. And then once I wrap that up, I'm going to take tomorrow off, probably do some chair flying, go through all my maneuvers, make sure that all my presentations are ready to go, so that way I'm ready to go and execute on Monday. I'm going to go inside, get everything prepared, ready to go, and I'll see you guys after the flight. And if you're returning back to the channel and you haven't yet already, go ahead, hit that subscribe button so that way you won't miss a single day of this exciting adventure. Just wrapped it up, grabbed a whole bunch of wings from Low and Slow as well. We've got a birthday party tonight, so we're gonna go and celebrate a little bit, very responsibly, of course. But flight went really well. It was only about a 1.1. However, I got in a little bit of ground while we were waiting on the plane to show up, so that was really nice, kind of just talking about, especially when it comes to the power off 180s, which I've had an issue with, but really just picking out landing points, being able to hit landing points, and the three different elements of like what we can kind of control between our airspeed, our angle, and our aiming point, right? So those 3A's are kind of the things that we can kind of control there. So it was good to kind of review all those, what to do in different scenarios, and different maybe things that aren't as intuitive as you're looking to come in on the approach. I mean, if you're coming in too fast, to actually nose up to bleed off the speed, and if you're going too slow, nosing down and like really pick up that speed as much as you can. Feels a little counterintuitive, things that you want to be doing, because if you're too high, you actually want to kind of continue to pull up and bleed speed off, whereas if you're too low, you actually want to nose down to increase that airspeed and kind of, you know, get yourself into ground effect and really be able to ride those things out. So very kind of different than what you feel like you need to be doing whenever you're inside the plane. So it was good to go over all of that. Went up, did a few takeoff and landings. I mean, I think I did a total of like 4 takeoff and landings. That was really good. Did a practice a go around on a pretty stabilized approach. Did a power off 180 without my PFD, just feeling the plane and getting used to using more of those outside visual references and just kind of getting more used to seeing the plane than necessarily flying by instruments. I know that's something we're supposed to be building on and doing, but I feel like especially in these, you know, TAAs and these glass cockpits, like it's just really easy to keep your eyes on the inside more, and you have some sight pictures of things that you know, but to just completely fly takeoff, landings, entire approaches without all of this stuff, and not pulling it up as a backup or anything, just literally flying off of visual references, I think was really helpful today, and just kind of feeling and getting more comfortable with the plane a little bit. Felt really solid, like all my landings were good, takeoffs were good, My maneuvers were okay. I felt like my steep turn was a little off. I did like my lazy 8. I feel like that went pretty well. So for a 1.1, I feel like we packed a lot in there and I got a lot out of it. So really looking forward to the check ride on Monday. Now, tomorrow I'm going to review everything. I'll let you know how that goes, and I'll catch up with you guys in a bit. It is Monday at Blue Line. It's currently 11:30. My check ride is at 1 o'clock. I have some lunch here with me. I'm going to go in, eat, kind of start reviewing all my notes, get my toll card, all that kind of stuff together, make sure my paperwork is in order so that way we can kind of make it a pretty quick process as far as getting started once the check ride begins. Definitely feeling that nervous excitement before the check ride, as always, you know, nervous because you don't want to make any mistakes, but you're also excited because it's time for you to showcase all of your skills and, you know, to upgrade from just being a commercial pilot to being a certified flight instructor. Feeling pretty solid about all of my knowledge bases for the ground. Winds look like they're fairly calm today. Right now they're at about 4 to 5 knots. We are going to be using runway 3, which isn't my favorite, especially when we're doing power off 180s, but you know, you can't really choose which direction the wind's going to be going, and who knows, by 1 o'clock it may switch directions and maybe we'll start using runway 21. If you haven't already, smash that like button, give me a little bit of support as I'm going into this check ride. Catch you guys after I finish it up. So I just got done with my check ride a few minutes ago, got through with my debrief, and I have a first time pass on CFI. I'm so excited, especially after the last kind of debacles with commercial not going well and just struggling with those power offs. Everything went really smooth, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised the reverse of my ground versus my flight. So actually my ground was the weaker part versus my flight. So again, I'm always nervous about one and not the other, and I never seem to be right on which one I'm going to struggle with more. Instead of being able to present all these PowerPoints and things like that I had and ready to kind of showcase, just kind of ran around and jumped from thing to thing, and as we were doing that, just trying to like pull the slides and showcase different stuff, and reading some regs, and just was overly tight during the ground, not able to explain those regs as well as I wanted to at times. So I would have to just kind of like pause everything and just read through it and sit down and like just take some mental notes about like, what is this thing actually trying to say to me? And then also on the emergency procedures, going through each one, making sure that I found the correct spot, and then I'm identifying the right thing there. So all of that went together to make for a ground that wasn't flawless by any means, but I was able to provide the information that the DP was ultimately looking for and got through the ground. So got done with the ground, then we got to go up in the air, and everything was going pretty smooth up in the air. Takeoffs went pretty well, except for one. The winds were pretty light. It was only like 4 to 5 knots, but it was kind of coming straight down the pipe, and then all of a sudden, as I'm doing my soft field, it started blowing a little bit to the side, and so like as we're going through, I didn't put in quite enough crosswind correction there, so kind of a little jumpy as we came through, and then finally was able to kind of get it and finished off okay, but definitely a little bit stuttery there on the start with my crosswind correction. Did okay as far as, you know, all my other landings and takeoffs, and kind of talking my way through, teaching different points, teaching straight and level flight, teaching steep turns, teaching different aspects, and then teaching emergency engine out procedures. I feel like the teaching in the airplane went a lot better than the teaching in the ground did, if I'm going to be honest. And then my execution of things was, I thought, pretty good, talking my way through it, kind of showcasing what things look like in the aircraft. I think went pretty well as far as like when I'm doing the flying and not just like modeling and teaching. So felt like overall flight portion went pretty well. Ground section was something that I could have used some more work on, and I think it may just be where I'm placing my emphasis, and I think I just need to make sure that, you know, on these last 3, so I've got double I coming up next, and my camel, and then my MEI. On those 3, just equally spreading out the love between my ground and flight and not focusing one over the other. Double I is going to happen pretty fast. So I've got a ground tomorrow, I've got a ground and a simulator the next day, followed up by a flight every day through Saturday, and then a check ride on Monday. So it's going to be fast. Been a while since I've looked at some plates. I've been trying to refresh myself a little bit lately, so I'm going to go home, definitely make sure that I'm reviewing all of that and that I'm getting a good base, so that way I don't have to start from absolutely nothing during tomorrow's ground, and I can feel pretty solid about my approaches and things like that. Really excited with today. Obviously, a first time pass on CFI is not easy, and so to be able to get that, whether my performances were where I wanted them to be or not, pass is a pass at this point. I'm super excited about it. It's Tuesday at Blue Line and it's almost 11 a.m., which is when my ground is going to start. Today's ground is just going to be kind of an overview. We'll go through the PTS. I have that as along with my instrument procedure handbook to be able to go through, kind of highlight the things that I need to start reading and brushing up on, get used to reading all these plates again, as well as all of the standards that are going to be covered by the PTS and things that I'll need to accomplish in order to be a CFII. Still riding pretty high from yesterday's check ride. I hope that doesn't fade away anytime soon. Still really excited about a first time pass. So if you're excited for that too, hit that like button and leave me a comment down below. Let me know how your last check ride went. I'd love to be able to share those experiences with each of you. So I'm going to run in, knock this ground out. I'll let you know how it goes as soon as I wrap it up. I wrapped up my ground lesson, and as to be expected, I guess, it was a little rough, still a little rusty on some of my stuff. I was actually probably better than what I actually thought I was going to be heading into it. It's been a couple months since I've really studied my instrument stuff fairly regularly. Good thing is I did overview the PTS and just what I need to get done and kind of focus on, so that way I can make sure that I'm building out the right lessons for everything that I need to get done going forward. Got a few places that I definitely found some, small holes. For the most part, I still feel like I got a good overall grasp on everything. It's just getting a little bit more details back in line, and that's just going to take a little studying, and it should be hard as I'm building out these plans to really be able to kind of get those details in and make sure that I feel comfortable. Tomorrow I do have another ground lesson, should wrap up everything. We didn't get through everything today. Should be able to wrap up some of that stuff tomorrow, as well as finish up the ground for tomorrow. And then we have a simulator training, so that'll be interesting to just get back in there and start messing with the knobs and things like that again, just to make sure that I'm feeling comfortable again with building out holds and my approaches and that kind of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and start to get to work on my lesson plans for my II. Catch you guys tomorrow. It is Wednesday morning, a little after 10 a.m. I have my first ground session at noon. Wanted to just get up here, start sorting through some additional material today, continuing to try and put my lesson plans together through all my instruments, as well as all of the navigational systems that I went through yesterday in my ground. Today's ground session should finish up where we left off, going through basically our instrument stand man and continuing to go through everything that's going to be covered in the PTS, which is, I think, like the last PTS that hasn't been replaced by an ACS for my CFII Checkride. So then once we finish up all of those, then tonight at 6:15 to 5:30, I've got a sim lesson. That sim lesson is going to cover some navigational things again, start shooting some approaches, drop some holds, whether they're actually in the procedure or just holds off of radials and different areas, things like that. I think there may also be a couple of emergency procedures as well as a PFD failure, as I only have 3 flights that we'll get into once we get into the air, so covering as much as we possibly can in the sim session tonight. Excited to get started today, get through the rest of my grounds, and make sure that I'm polishing up all of my ground knowledge before I take to the skies. And of course, I'll let you guys know how everything goes here in a little bit. Just got done with my ground session and everything went pretty good. Got to do some ATC calls, just review that, lost comm scenarios, went through the 2 different types of instrument flying, so like primary and supporting or doing performance control. Really just ready to show that I'm ready to present this knowledge at an instructor level instead of just as a student, which is the primary difference when you're looking between your instrument as a student and the instrument as an instructor. Seems pretty obvious, but sometimes those obvious things need to be said. So I'm going to go and start working on some of my comms calls just to be ready for that, and to review all of my note sections that I've had from yesterday's ground as well as today, just getting comfortable with what knowledge areas I need to kind of support myself with and make sure that I'm getting all this down at a really solid level so that way I can actually instruct on this come Monday. So I'm gonna get all this stuff covered, and then I will catch up with you guys after I finish up my sim lesson later on tonight. It is Thursday afternoon at Blue Line. It was really dark outside and really couldn't get good video last night, so catch you up real quick on the sim lesson. Did some DME arcs, did a few different approaches. Along with my call outs, I also worked on things like my actual giving of craft clearances, PTAC, holds, approach clearances, the things that I'll have to do as a CFI and not just a student, which again is a big difference when you're getting your CFII versus you're getting your IFR rating. So it's good to do that because I really was feeling rusty, especially with some of the buttons and like placing holds on GPS fixes and not just those natural holds that get kind of built whenever you're building in your approaches when you're using the G1000. So it's 2:30 right now. I've got a flight at 3. I've got another one tonight at 10. Should be really good. I think they're both going to be about 3.5 hours, probably a 2.5 hour flight. Have some time before and after for some pre-brief and then post-brief. So should be a good opportunity for me to go through, make sure that all my calls are good, and then I'm ready to go, get the approaches, go ahead and start like highlighting the approaches that we're going to do. So that way I can get my briefs down whenever I'm doing my plates. Not sure if I'll have the time in between my flights to get out here and catch you up, but if not, I'll definitely catch you up in the morning. But you know, I'll give you a recap here in a little bit. It's Saturday, and I am getting ready for a flight at 5:30. It's currently 5 o'clock. Wanted to give you a quick wrap up about the last flight as well as the upcoming flight. The night flight went really smooth. Earlier on in the day, that flight, I was really having to fight the wind, I guess, as well as the autopilot just was not really great. So in and out of the throttle a lot, ended up just like shutting down autopilot and just hand flying a lot more. It just was really kind of wonky, was putting in some really weird attitudes that I just didn't like. And so I got out of that and just really hand flew a bunch of those, which is fine. But then on the night flight was able to get in some more autopilot assisted approaches. Didn't have to fight the wind nearly as much or really getting in and out of the power settings. Was able to just kind of leave them in and then just adjust based on our flap setting, things like that, and our descent rates depending on kind of the approach we were doing, as well as which segment we were kind of coming in on, and making sure that we were at the appropriate descent rate and really capturing the right speeds and things like that. So it was a much smoother flight at night. this is going to be my last flight for CFII, which is cool and a little scary all at the same time, right? Getting ready for that check ride. Right now, I still don't have anybody set up for Monday. It may get pushed back next week, so just kind of playing things by ear. I'll find out a little bit more once I get this flight done, see if I can get in touch with a few more people to get a final word before I head back home, spend a little bit of time with the family. Of course, I'll let you know how this flight goes as soon as I wrap it up. Again, I wrapped up a flight basically at night and just can't really get good light in here to be able to wrap things up for you guys at night. So wanted to go ahead and wrap things up in the last flight now. It was a really solid flight. I feel like everything went just like I wanted it to go. My circle to lands are good. My approaches are good. I feel like I'm talking through everything, kind of coaching things up. A couple of things I just want to be cognizant of is probably getting ahead of instruction when it comes to traffic and just talking to other traffic, especially in patterns and when we're shooting these approaches. Just get ahead, ask them to do things, give specific requests to other pilots that may be in the pattern of extending their downwinds or things like that. So that way I don't end up in a dicey situation as far as using the ADM and whether to break off approaches or any of that other stuff. It's just to kind of get ahead of traffic and just be cognizant of that whenever we're doing the approaches, especially when we're doing approaches coming in opposite of the runway that is in use. So if everybody is using runway 3 and we're shooting runway 21, making sure that we're staying ahead, especially of our calls, to make sure everybody knows where we're at and what it is we're planning on doing and those break off calls and things like that. So it is Monday morning now at Blue Line. It is just before 10 o'clock. There's an IFR ground I may sit in on. I also want to see if I can't get into the simulator today. There's a couple of other things that I just want to make sure that I'm really good on before I actually have my check ride tomorrow at 9 a.m. I finally got a hard time ready and set for my CFI-I Checkride. So I'm going to go in, work on some different approaches, make sure I continue to build out all my lesson plans and things like that for today. And I'll let you know how it goes as soon as I wrap it up. So yesterday's flight went really well. Did 4 different approaches and was able to also do some steep turns and just feel really comfortable now with doing some different type of approaches with like a PFD failure and just going off of my MFD and using backup instruments. And you know, if the world just kind of blows up, what do you do in that situation, and can you still get the plane down? And feel much more comfortable after yesterday's flight from doing that. Today is the big day with the check ride. It is currently 7:50 right now. My check ride is at 9 o'clock. I'm going to go in and get set up. I do have a new DPE that I don't know if we've really used before, so it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. Always a little nerve-wracking whenever you're going into a check ride. I think that's even more so when you're not really sure about the DPE and don't really know what to expect from them as well. So should be an interesting check ride. Should go pretty smooth though. I think I'm very well prepared for this one, so I feel pretty confident about the ground and the flight portion, and this is the first time I've really felt that way with any of my check rides. So we'll see exactly how that confidence plays out, and I'll let you guys know how everything goes as soon as I wrap it up. I was so excited that I totally forgot to do my conclusion video. I raced right home to tell everybody that I had passed my CFII check ride. So really, really awesome. Went through the ground portion. It was pretty smooth. I have to say there wasn't any real surprises that came along in the ground section. So went through the pedostatic system, went through most of just navigational systems, mostly GPS focused, right? Because we are kind of in a GPS aircraft. So for the most part, that's what we're going to be using. Talked a little bit about VORs. Then we went into the cross-country planning, which is where I would say most of the scenario-based questions were kind of asked. So building it out, what did that look like? I showed them my plan. So I'd planned one from Johnston down to Charleston, what I took into consideration for ceilings, running into icing, just all the different things you need to start thinking about whenever you're looking at doing a cross-country plan in instrument. And then just how I would teach it, things that I would want to make sure that my students are taking into consideration, things that I would be checking for, questions I would be asking my students to get those like critical thinking skills and ADM kind of polished up to make sure that they're doing the right things, because now it's not just about knowing the information, it's about teaching it and making sure that whoever is getting this guidance is getting the correct guidance and that they're going to be doing this stuff correctly, not just during their check ride, but then further on as well. I thought it was kind of interesting that we actually filed IFR flight plans and we flew the first 2 approaches into Rocky Mount under actual like IFR flight plans. So he kind of gave me the scenario of the approaches that I needed to do, type of approaches that he wanted to see, things that we needed to get together, and then it was up to me to put that plan together to actually then go out and fly it. So I thought that that was pretty interesting. Went in and filed the actual flight plan, got into the plane, picked it up, and then we flew the first 2 approaches. We flew 2 into Rocky Mount, and then we flew 1 back at Johnston. And the 2 that I flew into Rocky Mount, we did those with ATC. And then after the second approach, we went ahead, got back up, canceled flight following. Beautiful day, so we were able to do unusual attitudes as well as steep turns, and then I flew my last approach into Johnston with the land, ultimately passing. Really happy to get that one done. It's only the blue plane left for me, and at Blue Line Aviation that means the DA-42. So I've got my multi-engine that is coming up next. That'll start on Monday, and then I have my MEI, which will be the following week. So 2 weeks, 2 ratings. It's going to be happening super fast, and I can't wait to get started to get in to the multi-engine and get to fly this beautiful blue plane. Now in total, I have 173.5 total hours. I have 121 of PIC, and now with all the instrument that I did this week, I'm up over 55 hours of instrument. That includes simulated and actual. Super excited about the pace of everything right now. Feel like I've done it at the appropriate level, really learning from those previous mistakes of just trying to press through and taking my time, making sure that I have all my information, making sure that I feel comfortable and I'm not putting too much stress on myself in that situation, and that I'm ready to go and ready to actually check off that I am safe list correctly, that I really am managing that stress level, even in this accelerated program, that I feel completely competent and ready to do my check rides when the time comes, and I'm not putting any other expectations on myself other than executing in that moment. So if you're loving what you're seeing out of this channel, go ahead, hit that like button for me. And as always, you can see the next video in the series right here. You can see the entire playlist, everything I've done at Blue Line right here. And you can always subscribe by hitting this button right here. I appreciate you guys for watching. Let me know down in the comments how everything's going in your training. And until I see you in the next video, keep the grass off your wingtips, aviators.